Welcome back to LA Pop.
Oh, that's not right.
Believe in LA Football Podcast.
Touchdown Rams!
Touchdown UCLA!
Recovered by the Chargers.
The Trojans back in front.
With your hosts, the Coach and the Don, part of the Believe Podcast Network, LA's #1 sports podcast network.
What's up, delegates, and welcome to the Believe in LA Football Podcast. Have a fun show for you today. We're joined by a lot of awesome guys around the country as we're going to do a first-round live mock draft featuring the AFC West and NFC West teams. So welcome, everyone. Welcome to the live stream. Thanks for joining us. I'll let all these guys kind of introduce themselves. They do great work in the NFL, covering the draft, covering their respective teams, and so we couldn't be more thrilled to have them join us. But we're going to get right on the clock here. So the Cardinals are on the clock. Jess Root is going to start us off with our first annual live mock draft. So go ahead, Jess. Introduce yourself. Take it away.
All right, I'm Jess Root from cardswire.com and also the host of the Rise Up C-Red podcast, which I like to call the best hour of Cardinals talk on the web. But when it comes to the Cardinals and the first overall pick, I think it's the Cardinals have tried to keep it a secret, but it's been a really poorly kept secret. Ultimately, they're going to go with Kyler Murray. If you hear what Steve Keim just said the other day, I believe it was Tuesday at his pre-draft presser, he made a comment about not forcing a player on a coach. And while both Keim and Cliff Kingsbury have been very, very they've gushed about the praise they have for Josh Rosen, Kingsbury has wanted Kyler Murray on his team for years, and he's stumping for it. And I think ultimately that's what's going to happen. They're going to take Kyler Murray, and then it's going to come down to what sort of compensation are they going to get for Josh Rosen. It's kind of an interesting thing to do for a team that drafted who they believe is a franchise quarterback a year ago with a top 10 pick. But when you're 3-13 and your quarterback plays poorly, no matter what the circumstances are, they're sort of cleaning house of everything. It's almost like they're trying to completely wipe out the stench of everything that was 2018. And unfortunately, that also means their young quarterback in Rosen. So ultimately, Kyler's going to be the guy, even though it might not make financial sense because they're going to take a negative cap hit of $4 million just to move Rosen. But if Kyler Murray is as good as Cliff Kingsbury believes he is, that he's a Patrick Mahomes, Lamar Jackson, Russell Wilson type player, they won't regret it, and he's a perfect fit, like everyone says, for that offense.
Well, there you go. Kyler Murray off the board. We now move on. Thank you, Jess, for the analysis. We now move on to the San Francisco 49ers, the second pick. Go ahead, Kyle.
I am Kyle Posey. I'm with Niners Nation. I'm the producer there, and we are going to pass on Nick Bosa and go Quinnen Williams from Alabama. We are going to go with a guy that I feel like is just a better player. Bosa might be a better fit, but Quinnen's a better player, and I feel like with Dee Ford coming off the edge, that speed, there's not going to be much room for the quarterbacks to step up. And the 49ers really struggle just getting pressure in general. And, of course, Bosa's good, but I just have fewer questions with Quinnen Williams. So the fit makes sense, and I feel like interior pressure is greater than off the edge. So it's pretty easy for me, Quinnen Williams.
All right, well, there you go.
I love it. No, thanks.
Making wave.
Thanks.
You're welcome.
A little change. So then because with that, we have the Jets at 3, and they do take Nick Bosa, according to our auto simulator. So Nick Bosa off the board, and we now move on to the Raiders' first of their 3 first-round picks. Go ahead, Q.
Well, I'm your boy Q on Twitter at your boy Q254. You can find me on ESPN Central Texas. Also host of the Locked On Raiders podcast. I also do the Black Hole Banter podcast with my man James Arcelana. Just do a little bit of everything. And that Quinnen Williams pick for San Francisco at number 2 was really, really good. That was who I had my heart set on. So when I said thanks, it was very, very sarcastically. But yeah, that's a really good pick, and he would have fit really well in that Paul Gunther defensive line, even though everyone knows that, hey, the Raiders need to replace Khalil Mack. They need to get an edge rusher. So who's the guy that they go for? Right now, I look at a guy like Josh Allen and think, okay, maybe he could be that dude. But then I'm a little skeptical at the same time, not too sure exactly where he fits in this NFL. You know, I mean, he was a dog in the SEC, 17 tackles last season with Kentucky. He could be the dude. He could be the answer. He could be the end-all, be-all, or he could be a guy without a position. So with that being said, I'm going to go ahead and make a pick that a lot of folks are probably going to say is probably a little too high for this guy. But the Raiders at this point need a lot of talent on that defense. They need an alpha dog. They haven't had one in a very long time, especially on the defensive side of the ball as far as the linebacking position goes. So I'm going to look at Devin White out of LSU. Gives him the middle linebacker. He'll go with Vontaze Burfict, Brandon Marshall. Now, all of a sudden, that defense starts to come to shape a little bit, get some guys that want to win, change the culture of the team that is built with a bunch of just parts. This is guys that want to go in there and win. And with having 3 first-round draft picks, I feel like I could be a little bit flexible here and maybe kind of reach for a guy at 4. He's probably better at 7 or 8, but I'm going to go with this dude who I think could be the leader of the Raiders defense for quite a while. Devin White, linebacker out of LSU, number 4 overall pick for the Oakland Raiders.
You know, I like that pick because I think the Raiders went from having a very weak linebacking core to now adding Brandon Marshall. And then if you go with Devin White here, to a very strong linebacking core in one offseason. So definitely a good fit, definitely a need. And whether it's taking him 7 or 4, I don't think it's a huge reach.
Agreed.
So I like it.
Agreed.
Great. So then we move on to Tampa Bay, who is going to take Josh Allen, edge out of Kentucky. Then we go to the New York Giants at 6, who take Juwan Taylor, offensive tackle out of Florida. At 7, Jacksonville Jaguars get another edge guy, Rashawn Gary out of Michigan. And then at 8, another edge player taken off the board, Montez Sweat out of Mississippi State. And at 9, we see Ed Oliver taken from Houston, which brings us to pick 10 for the Denver Broncos and Cody Rourke.
Awesome. I'm Cody Rourke, host of the Locked On Broncos podcast for the Locked On NFL Network. Do some video content stuff for CodyRourkeNFL.com. And unfortunately, the last pick of Ed Oliver, he was number 1 right now on the Broncos big board based on guys available. So that leads you to the next point here. You know, they wanted a guy defensive line-wise, a generational talent, in my opinion, like Ed Oliver, would have been too hard to pass up at 10 for the Broncos. But at this point, everybody's talking Broncos need to go offense. They need to look at quarterback. They need to look at Drew Lock. I'm sorry, that just doesn't seem like a reasonable standpoint for a team that just has Joe Flacco now as their quarterback, a guy that they want to project there for the next 1 to 3 years to groom a young guy behind. Next year's quarterback class is a little more appealing to the Broncos with John Elway's love for Justin Herbert. Offensively, they addressed a lot of things, getting a right tackle in Juwan James from the Miami Dolphins. Offensively, you're still having a lot of young talent at that receiving core position with Cortland Sutton, Deshaun Hamilton, Tim Patrick. You brought back your tight end. You have Phillip Lindsay and Royce Freeman. But right now, the one thing that stands out, Coach Fangio, defensive-minded coach, becomes the head coach of the Broncos organization. Where did they struggle a little bit last year? At inside linebacker, biting on play-action fakes consistently, allowing tight ends to have over 200 yards receiving. George Kittle of the 49ers, he knows that very, very well. The Broncos need a cover linebacker who can provide them with some value to cover tailbacks out of the backfield and tight ends as well, whether it's lined up outside or lined up in the slot. And one guy that really did impress a lot of people at the NFL Scouting Combine is another Devin. And the Broncos with pick number 10 are going to select Devin Bush out of the University of Michigan. And this is a great pickup because he's got 4.4 speed, sideline range. He can cover guys out of the backfield. He's definitely a guy that will be that value player that they had with Danny Trevathan, where they allowed Brandon Marshall to be the guy that just focuses on stopping the run. Todd Davis will be the run-stopping linebacker for the Broncos, and Devin Bush will be the coverage guy that can do both and tackle pretty well.
Yeah, I mean, they definitely have a need at linebacker, and when Devin White goes at 4, I think Devin Bush is the next guy on the board and would be a good fit. Do you see that at all, Cody, as a reach, or is it just, you know what, they need it, and you take the guy you want, and it doesn't matter what number you take him at?
If you would have asked me before the NFL Scouting Combine about Devin Bush, a lot of people had thought he might have been a second-round type player, but his Scouting Combine, I mean, that's where guys' value and their stock can increase or decrease. He increased his drastically with his 40 time as well as his drills. And one thing that really stood out to me with watching Devin Bush at his pro day, he's got very good hips, and he's got the ability to make quick reactions, good instinctual tactics. I know people are saying that he's a little undersized, But ultimately, I don't think that matters for a guy that can read a guard pull. Look at the NFL. You have to read guards at any level. You can't just guess. And Devin White has a tendency to guess sometimes, but very instinctual. Devin Bush is a guy that trusts the guard read a little bit more. Coach Fangio is a mastermind of the 3-4 defense. With Von Miller, Bradley Chubb on the outside as edge rushers, they will utilize a guy like Devin Bush very, very nice in his and Ed Donatell's defensive scheme.
There you go. Yeah, I think it could be a good fit. So thank you, Cody. Moving on to 11 for the Bengals. They select T.J. Hawkinson, tight end out of Iowa. The Packers at 12 take Andre Dillard, tackle out of Washington State. At 13, the Dolphins take, I think this is our first quarterback off the board, Dwayne Haskins, quarterback out of Ohio State. And then
I picked the first one.
Yeah.
okay, yeah. First overall, sorry. Second quarterback off the board. Thank you. Then at 14, the Atlanta Falcons take Brian Burns, edge out of Florida State. DK Metcalf out of Mississippi goes 15 to the Washington Redskins. At 16, the Carolina Panthers select Jonathan Abrams, safety out of Mississippi State. At 17, the Giants get their quarterback of the future, taking Drew Lock, quarterback out of Missouri. At 18, Minnesota selects Jonah Williams, tackle out of Alabama. At 19, Tennessee takes Cleveland Farrell, edge out of Clemson. And then at 20, the Steelers take Marquise Brown, wide receiver out of Oklahoma, which brings us to 21 for the Seattle Seahawks. And Michael, take it away.
Oh, wow, that was a lot of picks
Yeah.
just now.
Do you need me to recap them at all?
I might have to ask if some specific guys are there. I just got asked to do a schedule analysis post last minute, so that's fun after this. You said the kid from Clemson is gone?
Cleveland Farrell went at pick 19, yeah.
And the kid from Michigan is gone, the defensive lineman.
Rashawn Gary?
Yeah, I had a bunch of D linemen on the board, man. You guys are killing me.
Yeah, the edge guys. There's been what 1, 2, 3, 4, 5.
I think I had Farrell, Sweat,
6.
and Gary all on the board for me.
6 edge guys have already been taken. So you are, if you're looking edge.
Let's see here. Well, the Seahawks still have Frank Clark, so they're not desperate. At least not yet. Until they ship him somewhere for a second-round pick. Hopefully they don't do that. Let's assume they still have some edge talent there. Let's see. They let Earl Thomas walk, so that was bad. So let's look at some safeties here. Definitely need safeties to make the whole Legion of Boom thing work. It doesn't work if people can just throw over the top of you, which people were able to do last year. Let's see. Shoot, Patrick Mahomes threw sidearm. That was disrespectful. I'm going to go with...
That was funny.
No, it looked really cool.
That was funny.
It was the football equivalent of him when Steph Curry shoots it and he looks at the bench and he runs off. It's just the ultimate disrespect. Type of stuff you should get put on your butt for.
That was the one where he was just like staring down at his arm, right?
he was like rolling left, threw it sidearm with his right, and then just kind of turned around like, yeah, that's a touchdown. And of course it was. And it was on prime time. It was beautiful, but they still lost. So
that was one of their losses.
Yeah, that was such a random loss. This safety pick. My pick is going to be Nasir Adderley out of Delaware.
Alrighty.
Safety. They definitely need a playmaking safety. Last year they had Bradley McDougald back there, who's good, but more of a strong safety. And they had Tedrick Thompson out of Colorado, who had really good ball skills and one of the best coverage grades coming out of college in a 2017 draft as a free safety, and hasn't necessarily lived up to any of that as a pro. So you got to keep drafting dudes until you nail one. And everything about Adderley says that he can be a stud. So, yeah, boom, there you go. Seahawks grabbing the Earl Thomas replacement in the first round.
There you go. And, Michael, what do you you didn't say what you do. What do you do? What outlet are you with?
Oh, thank you. I got to get my P. Diddy on and do some shameless plugs.
That's
thank
right.
You for that.
Get him out there.
Looks like I'll have a schedule analysis post on The Athletic, Seattle, tomorrow. Let's see. I also do the Seahawks Man-to-Man podcast. That's always at the top of my Twitter, at Mike Dugar. Again, I cover the Seahawks for The Athletic. You can check out all my stuff there in The Athletic Seattle. Let's see, do I need to do anything else? No, that's about it. I do mock drafts, apparently. So there's that. But yeah, that's where you can find all my work.
There you go. Question before we move on. So taking Adderley, do you think there's any shot if they do want safety that they maybe hold out and try to get like a Taylor Rapp guy right in their backyard in like the second round out of Washington?
So really the Seahawks only have 4 picks. I think they'll trade back. Mm-hmm. But for these purposes, I just stated 21. I think if I have them traded back a couple times and maybe not pick until about 40 for their first pick, because they only have 4, right? So they need some more guys. But let's say Rapp's there at 33 or 34-ish, then yeah, I think they would go with Rapp there, but not at 21. They need more picks, because if they take it 21, right, that means they don't pick again until the 3rd round, and they only have 2 more picks after that. Yeah. Right, so you're pretty quiet on day 2 and day 3, and John Snyder doesn't get down like that.
No.
He wants to throw a bunch at the dartboard and hope he hits on a Richard Sherman or a Cam Chancellor or something like that, or a Shaquem Griffin or whatever, Chris Carson's, David Moore's, those late round guys.
Or trade up for a punter.
Trade.
Or they can trade up for a punter like last year.
Hey, man.
They traded for a punter, and then he made All-Pro.
It was great. I'm not hating.
That was personal. I don't even want to bring that up because I was banging the table for the Raiders to grab Michael Dixon because he's from UT. He was a stud. I don't care if you don't want to draft a punter. I wanted the Raiders to draft a punter, and the damn Seahawks went up and traded up to get him, and then the Raiders went and got Johnny Townsend, and Johnny Townsend stunk, and Michael Dixon was a stud. So that was a hell of a pick by the Seahawks.
Absolute stud. Man, I didn't know he was like the MVP of a bowl game.
Yeah,
he declared early. You got to have
exactly
to declare early as a punter, man. That's confidence on the next level.
Yep.
Yeah, no, I poke fun, but he was great. It was just funny happening during the draft, but he was a good pickup. So, all right, so Adderley goes to the Seahawks at 21. Thank you, sir. So then at 22, we have the Baltimore Ravens. They select N'Keal Harry, receiver out of Arizona State. And at 23, the Houston Texans take Cody Ford, tackle out of Oklahoma. Then at 24, back to the Raiders for their second first-round pick.
Well, there's a lot of different options here to go. A lot of the defensive guys that I really wanted to take are already off the board. Obviously, you got one guy, a linebacker at number 4 overall, still looking for that edge, but a lot of those edge, just like Seattle was looking at, a lot of those edge guys are already gone that I was looking at. So there's one guy that I'm thinking I can grab at number 35 overall, so I'm going to hold out there, and I'm actually going to shock a lot of people and flip over to the offensive side of the ball and go get Derek Carr and company a weapon. I think that Josh Jacobs, running back out of Alabama, will be the next guy that the Raiders take off the board, and this is why. One, you retire Marshawn Lynch a year early. Even if he decides he wants to come back, you just retire him a year early. Say, you know what, we appreciate everything you've done, but thanks, but no thanks. We got to go ahead and start looking for the future. You've done a lot of great things in Seattle. Obviously, you did a lot of great things in Oakland, in the community, and with the team, living out your dreams, so that was cool, but at this point, it's building for the future. The one thing about Josh Jacobs that's the biggest knock is, well, he doesn't have a lot of wear and tear on his body like the rest of the Alabama running backs. He hasn't had a lot of experience. Great. That's a plus, actually. That's the first time I'm not going to be upset at something like that, especially from an Alabama running back. He's very versatile, very Alvin Kamara-like, so I think that gives John Gruden a lot of versatility on that offensive side of the ball. He can catch the ball. He can run the rock, obviously. He could block, and you combine him with the other running backs in the back stable, and you start to form both sides of the ball. Now you have a winner at LSU at the linebacker position that you grabbed at number 4, and now you get a guy that's used to winning from on the offensive side of the ball in Josh Jacobs at the running back position. So I think he's a great weapon. I think he's good to add to the team, and there's still a couple defensive guys I can grab coming up with my next few picks. And since I have so many picks, I might as well go ahead and get some dudes. At this point, the Raiders need dudes. They just need guys that can flat out play football, and Josh Jacobs could do it. He has a hell of a backstory, and sometimes those guys want it just a little bit more. So first running back off the board, Josh Jacobs, Alabama, to the Oakland Raiders at number 24.
Yeah, I mean, I think you said it great. I think they could use a guy like that, could be a great fit, and something they could build around and just give him talent back there. So great. Moving on to 25, the Philadelphia Eagles select Dalton Reisner, offensive tackle out of Kansas State. Yeah, he's been up and down draft boards. Kind of some guys having him going super early, some guys having him fall into that 20 to 30 range. So I know teams were getting to him, but teams like the Chargers, the Rams are hoping he kind of falls down there. But goes to 25. 26.
I definitely was just now, but there goes my hopes.
Yeah, so you back to the drawing board for you. So at 26, Greedy Williams goes to the Colts, cornerback at LSU. And then we're right back to the Raiders.
And I'm so glad that you said Greedy Williams, because I thought you were going to go with another defensive back, and that's who I had my eyes on. And I know a lot of folks are going to say, man, you still have not addressed the edge rushing position, and I know I haven't, but I still got to go with just guys. I got to go with guys that are playmakers, and I got to go with as much talent on the team as possible. So I'm going to go with that defensive backfield. I think somebody needs to pair up with Garrett Conley. He kind of showed why he was that first-round draft pick, number 24 overall, just a couple years ago. He showed the part in the second half of 2018. So I'm going to look at Byron Murphy. We talked about Taylor Rapp out of Washington. I'm going to talk about Byron Murphy out of Washington. I know he hasn't had a lot of starting experience, but 4 interceptions in 2018, 13 pass breakups, a guy who doesn't mind coming up and making the tackle. I think Paul Gunther looks at the defensive backs he had in Cincinnati and says, you know what, this guy could be similar to these guys. And he could be a really good defensive back for a long time. He's a young dude. You pair him with Garrett Conley as 2 of the best defensive backs that the Raiders have had at the same time in a very, very long time. So Byron Murphy is going to be my last first-round draft pick, defensive back out of Washington, number 27 overall to the Raiders.
Yeah, again, another great pick if he falls to 27. He's my number 1 corner in this draft, actually, personally. So if you're Raiders, as a Bronco fan, I would be pretty bummed if he goes to the Raiders at 27. But he'll be a good fit there. So, all right, great. So now on to 28, the Los Angeles Chargers. What you got,
Oh, boy.
Coach?
I got 2 guys here I'm trying to decide, and ironically, they both played for the same college team. But I think I'm going to go with my gut here. He's been climbing up draft boards a lot recently. I got to go Dexter Lawrence, defensive tackle out of Clemson. Big dog, man. He weighs in about 330, 340. He can come in and play in those 4-3 schemes, play in a 3-4 scheme. He's very versatile for his size. He can plug the middle in the 3-4. He can help stop the run as well in a 4-3. Doesn't bring much to the table for a pass rush. But with Melvin Ingram, Joey Bosa, guys like that, you don't really need a pass rush up the middle too much. But yeah, a versatile guy who can step in when Brandon Mebane does decide to walk away from the game, which probably won't be very much longer. Yeah, Dexter Lawrence, the big dog from Clemson, gets taken first before his counterpart, Christian Wilkins. So Dexter Lawrence is now a Charger. Welcome to L.A., son.
There you go. And Coach, we talked all offseason about if the Chargers were going to go after a defensive tackle in free agency, and they didn't. So I guess address it here in the draft making sense, and I think he'd be a good fit there. So, all right, on to 29, the Kansas City Chiefs, Charles Goldman. Who do you write for? What do you do? What shows are you on, and what's your pick?
Gosh, that took forever. I hope the actual draft night isn't like this where I'm just like sitting here quiet, staring at the screen. I hope Brett Veach gets a little aggressive and trades up or something like that. I'm Charles Goldman. I write for Chiefs Wire. You can find our work at chiefswire.usatoday.com. You can also check us out on Facebook, facebook.com/ChiefsWire. Also on Twitter, twitter.com/TheChiefsWire. That's where you can find us. I'm struggling here. There were a lot of guys that I was interested in. Some of the defensive backs, I saw them sliding, and I'm like, oh, man, maybe I'm going to get lucky. Maybe one of these corners is falling to me. But now I don't really have any corners at the top of my board. Of course, my dog decides to like kick and scratch as soon as I turn on the microphone. Right now, my top player available is Jeffrey Simmons, but I'm not going to take him. There's the red flags, the off-field stuff. I don't think the Chiefs can afford to take many more hits there right now. And he's got a video of him online, punching a girl in a restaurant or something. I don't even know what happened, but it's just something they can't afford right now from a PR standpoint. I don't know if this guy went. Did Chauncey Gardner-Johnson from Florida, defensive back, is he still available?
He is available.
Sure is, yeah.
Yeah, that's who I'm going for right now for the Chiefs. They just added Tyrann Mathieu, safety, the Honey Badger. They just added him in free agency, but they also got rid of Eric Berry, who's kind of like the heart and soul of the defense. They're kind of asking Tyrann Mathieu to pick it up on the back end there, but I mean, after that, they haven't really done a whole lot to address the safety position. And Chauncey's a guy who you can line him up really anywhere. Free safety, strong safety, put him in the slot, man coverage. I mean, honestly, if you had an issue where you needed to start him at cornerback, you probably could. He's got the athleticism. He's really talented. He's improved as a tackler. Really just the past year. He's improved significantly as a tackler. So really you pair him with Tyrann Mathieu, that helps kind of lock up that back end there and gives you some options that you didn't really have beforehand.
There we go. Yeah. Good adding depth there, and I think that would be a good pick for them as well. So Chauncey Gardner-Johnson, safety out of Florida, goes to the Chiefs at 29. So we get to 30, the Green Bay Packers, and they select Noah Fant, tight end. I think that actually will be a great fit there. Pair with obviously Aaron Rodgers and all the weapons. So then we get to the LA Rams at pick 31, excuse me, the runner-up. 39, yeah. It's been long. So obviously most needs for the Rams are in the trenches, whether it be on offense or defensive side of the ball. With the departure of Roger Saffold and Brian Allen, I think they stay on the offensive side, and I'm going to select Garrett Bradbury out of NC State, Here's a guy, too. It's been kind of climbing draft boards as the process has gone. Great leader on his team, has great movement skills, intelligence. He actually was a former tight end before moving over to center/guard, so he's very athletic for his position. I think he'll be able to slide kind of and play both, whether center or guard. I think the Rams have a need at both those positions, so kind of can plug him where they need most or where they think he fits and where his frame and where his strength improves throughout after the draft process. So I think Garrett Bradbury would be a great pick, and he could be a long-term starter for the Rams. To really anchor that offensive line as they move forward and eventually probably move on at the tackle position too, but he'll be a good anchor at the inside there. So, well, there you have it. That wraps up.
Hey, I got a question.
We got to know who the Pats take.
Yeah, who the Pats take, and two, did Jonathan Abram ever go off the board?
No, he did not.
Yeah, he did. He went to the Panthers.
You're right.
Okay.
You're right. At 16.
I was about to say, hold on. I thought he went by, but then I couldn't remember what team. So okay, that makes sense because in my opinion, he was the best safety available.
Yes.
He's a dog.
He is. Yep. He is. Yeah. 16. And the Patriots select Christian Wilkins out of Clemson, defensive line.
Of course they did.
Probably get the best player in the draft. Who knows?
Right.
So
that's a very Patriots pick.
Oh, extremely. Yeah. It's like this auto simulator knows exactly who the Patriots will draft. So
well, it's Bill Belichick.
Yeah, easy to read. So, well, there you go, guys. Thanks, that was fun, man. So I appreciate you. So,
absolutely.
Yeah.
Anytime.
So, yeah, obviously check out you're the two lone survivors still in the war room. So make sure to check out Q. Remind me again. I know you're on radio. You do the Raiders podcast.
I do a show on ESPN Central Texas, noon to 3, and called Unnecessary Roughness. And then I do the Locked On Raiders podcast, and then I do the Black Hole Banter podcast. And, I just do a little bit of everything that I can get my hands on. It's just how I roll.
Cool, man. That's great. How did you become are you from Texas? How did you become a Raiders fan? Or you just cover them?
I'm a Cali dude. I'm straight out of Oakland. You know, that's where my roots are, and I've been in Texas now since 2010. And you know, sometimes you just it's better to be lucky than it is to be good. You know what I mean? So just fell into a bunch of great situations, and so I'm rooted here in Texas as a Cali dude. I'm a West Coast Texan. So
hey, there you go.
I like it.
Yeah.
So there you go.
Well, Charles is still in Charles, are you in Missouri or Kansas?
I'm in Illinois, actually.
Illinois.
So.
Oh, yeah, Champaign, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, and then Talon's originally from KC. I'm originally from Denver. We're in Cali now. So, you know, we're all uprooted all over the place. So,
yeah.
Do what you got to do.
That's what it is.
Yeah.
Well, it's been fun, man. It's been fun. Thanks for having me on.
Yeah, thanks for doing
Appreciate you, buddy.
Appreciate it. So, thank you both. And I'll send you – we're going to do this as a podcast, too, if you want it. We'll send you the link. But it was fun. We'll try it again. So, thanks so much. Have a good night.
I appreciate
Excellent. Take care, guys.
Thanks, guys.
Peace.
Peace.
Later.